Setting up for a Premiere tutorial on just setting up a project. We'll start with the Honda project. And the first thing we got to do is figure out where the source elements are. And on my desktop here, there is a file shares server. When I double click on that, it gives, and you may have to log in at this point. I can't remember which point you have to log in. But the main ones is Dropbox, Teacher, and Student. The Teacher is where you get things from me and where all the source elements are. The Dropbox is where you deposit all your finished projects, your finished cuts, your homework goes into the Dropbox. And you as a student have your own, think of it as your locker where you can store things, which is password protected. So let's just start by double clicking on Teacher. And this will open up a list of all the teachers who are active on this campus this semester. And if you just hit the letters LO, it will jump automatically to my last name, Louis, and find my folder, Louis Wall. I am the only teacher with the initials LO, so that's easy to find. If you were to double click on that, it'll open up another bin, and this will give you access to a lot of the materials which are useful for you as a student. There are, as you can see, tutorials, files, a whole bunch of things in here. PowerPoint movies. Here's the Premiere tutorials, which is the same ones on Vimeo. But the most important thing is the 31A class, which if you're starting to Premiere, this is where you'll find the documents, which could be helpful. There it is, including the different assignments for this class, syllabus, and all that kind of stuff. Things will change, but the more pertinent one right now is the media folder. And in here we have the Honda folder. And inside the Honda folder is all the elements for this project we're going to start right now. But I'm going to close that up and just click on take the entire folder. Don't take this elements. And the most important thing is to drag that into the Save Here partition here on the right. The Save Here partition is one where we do work from. We do not work off of any of the blue servers, such as file shares, teacher, or student folder, even though that's where you store your stuff. So we put into the Save Here. I just dragged it over, and I know it's there now. I'm going to close these windows. I like to keep a nice, clean desktop. Only the things that I need are open. It's a good habit to have, so don't have your other things open at the same time. It does slow the whole system down. We'll now launch the application, which is the Adobe Premiere Pro CC 2015. When I launch it, by double-clicking on the purple PR at the bottom here, it goes to this Start window. And so let's just click on New Project, and it will come to the New Project window. The first thing, you can just kind of follow the boxes, and it starts at the top, and already the Untitled is blue. That means that's ready for you to input and change that. So the first thing we always do is retitle something. Don't leave anything untitled. So I'm going to use just lowercase, HONDA, Honda, shift underscore, and call it PROJ, short for project. I'm going to put a number, project 1. Shift underscore, I'm going to use my last name. I highly recommend you do the same. This is how we start everything. Okay? Now, the location where this will be stored is in, as you can see by the description here, is under User Student Documents Adobe Premiere Pro 9.0. That is what you call the default location, and that is totally unsafe, and in our purposes here on this campus, useless, because if the computer were to crash, or you have to force quit it, or the power goes out, you will lose everything, because once it relaunches, everything that's in this folder will be erased and deleted. So that's kind of a bad thing to have happen. So rather than put it there, we're going to click on the Browse button here to the right, and then we're going to navigate to the place that is safe to save anything, which is the Save Here. So click on the left to save here. You don't have to pick any folder at this point. And, well, actually, I have a folder, and you may want to create a new one, and I'll create a new one, and I'm just call it Louis Projects. Let's just call it that. All right, my name and projects. I hit create, and it should jump to it, but it probably is highlight right there. Louis Projects, nothing's in it, and I hit choose. Okay, so now I can see that it is a volume, that means an external drive. It's called save here, and it's in the folder called Louis Projects. I will leave everything else as is, what's called default, and hit OK at the bottom. This will launch the application and create a project. And if you look at the very top here, the name of the project is there and tells you what it's called. The whole now pathway is more proper than it was before. It's Honda Proj 1 Louis.prproj. It's a Premiere project file. Okay, and this is pretty much how your window should look, your workspace. If you look at here, the obvious one here on the upper left says source no clips. And if I click on these black squares, notice that then you get this blue outline. Each of these things are considered windows, and only one window can be activated at any given time, which is a good thing, so there's no confusion. So now at the lower left here is where it defaults to the Project Honda folder. And notice there are media browsers, libraries, effects, and all these other things we will discover and utilize in time to come. I will go through all these windows once we get some material in here. So as it says right here, the prompt is to import media to start. Okay, fine. So the best way to import media is to go up to the File menu at the top here and click on File, and you bring your mouse, drag it down. It will eventually find Import. I click on Import, and notice that some of these functions have a little icon on the right, which looks like a little four-leaf clover, and the letter I, which makes sense for import. This button stands for Command I, and if you look on your keyboard, the first button to the left of your space bar says Command and has the same icon. There's also one on the right side of the space bar, same button. So this is considered the shortcut. But right now, since I'm here, I'll click on the Import button, and it will now bring me to the import menu. And it says, what do you want to import? Now, we are in the projects folder right now, and so rather than do that, I'm going to click on save here. And now this default situation here, and you may not have this default, but the Apple way of going through these menus, there's basically three different ways. There is on the upper top here is the icon view, which I find fairly useless. There's a bunch of lines, which is the list view, which is pretty good. And then there is the list view plus columns, which is the most useful layout. And I recommend using this all the time because it shows you the path. So save here. I'm going to scroll down. Here it is. I click on that. Do not go further to get the various elements, but just hit import lower right. Okay, so now it comes up with a import failure file message, and what it says is that this file format supported the thumbs database DB. That's okay, I don't need it. So now I have in my lower left a folder now with 16 items in my project bin. Okay, so these windows are, or project window I should say, I use these terms interchangeably, bin, window, folder, because they look like folders. They have tabs, like a folder would, paper folder. So now to look at the contents of this, there's a couple of ways. As we're discovering this, if you go to the lower left of this project window, you will see there's the blue button shows you what is the current view, which is the icon view. If I click over to the left here, hover over to the left here, it says list view. For now, let's go to list view. I click on that, and now we still have the little folder icon, but now it's condensed, and there is what we call disclosure triangle here. I click on that, and it points down and shows the contents of what's in that folder, which is all these 16 elements. Okay. Now, again, we still don't know what these things are, other than they're Honda 1, they're movies, There's, I believe, 14 movies, and then there is a PNG at the bottom. Okay, so these are different elements. The first one's AIF, which is an audio file. Then these are just QuickTime movies. So what I'm going to do is, before we get into this, is that I'm going to categorize these elements, which all came in together on the same folder. Closing the disclosure triangle closes the list. To create a new bin, which is what these things are called, I go down to lower right and notice that there is an icon that looks exactly like that. It says new bin. Now notice also, before I click on that, that the Honda folder is Honda bin is the last one I touched, so it's highlighted still. To deselect that, what you should do is click in any neutral gray area. Now it matches the neutral gray, so therefore it's not selected. At that point, I will click on the Honda bin. The reason why I do that is because otherwise it will put this new bin inside the one that was highlighted. To prove that point, I will click on the bin again, and since that bin was highlighted, I now have a bin within a bin. All right? Not a big problem. Happens all the time. I still sometimes do it in need to speed up. I just keep clicking on them. So to get a bin outside of a bin, you click on the inside bin and just hold your mouse button down, drag it, and drops it out. The way I know it's out of it is because when I do this, I can see the two bins. I'm going to create one more. There's my third one. Okay. So the first one, when I click on it, turns blue. On the word bin itself, I can now call it, with my caps lock on, CUTS. All right. I click on the next one. I select it first, and not on the folder, not on the arrow, not on the yellow box, but on the actual word. If I click on that, then the computer says, oh, I need to change the name. And I'm going to call this audio. I click on the next one, and again, I click on it, and I'll call that graphics. GRFX is a nice shortcut, keeping things simple, and short is a good way of naming things. Okay, so now I have these discrete bins, and they're categories, and pretty much every project I start, I'll need at least this much, if not more. But for now, I have my Honda, and now I will open up my disclosure triangle. And the first file is an audio file. As you can tell by the icon, it only has this green and black thing, and the black things represent waveforms. The Honda movies have a little film clip and an audio file, so they have audio and picture, supposedly, which we'll find out is not necessarily true, but that's how the file came in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the Valkyrie AIF file up to my audio bin. So I click on this. It's safest when you want to move a file to grab it by the icon, not by the name. Because if I click on the name again, it assumes I want to change the name. Don't do that. So I click on the icon, which is the little green box, and drag that up till I see the word audio turn black, and that means it goes in there. To prove that, I'll open that, and there he is. We've moved the audio file to the audio bin. Now, these are all clips, and they're fine. Go to the bottom, and I have the graphics PNG. Click on that, and I'm going to drag that up until I see graphics, and hover over that and let go. So now that's in there. So now we have the Honda, which is the generic name, and I'm going to actually change that by clicking on the word Honda a second time and call this Honda Clips. All right, that's a little more correct. All right, so there we go. So I have cuts, audio, graphics, Honda Clips. The only thing that doesn't have anything in it right now is the cuts bin, because I haven't created any sequences yet. So again, I'm going to use the term sequence and cuts interchangeably. The difference between a clip and a cut is the clip is the individual element, and then the combination of those individual elements creates a sequence of elements or sequence of clips, which is then also called a cut. I call it a cut because it's less words, shorter to say than sequence. All this in the desire to be more efficient and time saving. All right, now we're almost ready to get going. So this is basically setting up the project. We have set up the project, and now the next tutorial we'll get into starting the actual cutting and the project itself. So to get out of this, I'm going to go to the File menu, and I'm going to go to Close Project. In so doing, it will ask me to save the changes before closing, and I say yes. It is saving it, and then it goes away. So now it shows up here as what I did a few seconds ago. All right, we'll start from this point in the next tutorial.